From news and views, issues and opportunities, we'll have in-depth conversations with decision makers to find out what they know and what they think. I'm Rico Hizon, inviting you to join the exchange because your business is our business. Close to 1 billion people suffer from some kind of mental health disorder, according to the United Nations. But getting help is not easy. Many are facing stigma or a lack of knowledge that their struggles are a mental health issue. It's hurting them and their loved ones, and is also costing the economy losses in productivity and man hours. It is a battle that can only be won with families, support groups, and society. It begins with the question, how can I help? And should end with collective action to strengthen the mental health care system. And we now live in an increasingly digital world. How can we make sure everywhere we go, from the mind to the cyberspace, is a safe space? Never has mental health been an urgent concern than in this COVID-19 pandemic that's been going on now for more than 2 years. It has crept into the workplace, and people, managers are facing a workforce that's struggling to adjust to the new normal. How is the employment environment responding to mental health and safety issues? Joining us now is Occupational Safety and Health Center Executive Director Maria Teresita Cucueco. Ma'am, maraming salamat po for joining us on the exchange. Few are aware that there is a government office that looks after the welfare of workers regarding mental health issues. How is your agency making its presence felt in addressing concerns in the workplace?
For the Department of Labor and Employment, we know that mental health is really one of the crucial issues, not just because of COVID and even prior to that. When the Mental Health Act came out, the workplace was identified as one of the major sectors where workers' mental health should be addressed. And the DOLE came out with a Department Order DO-208 in 2020 that provides the guidelines for workplaces in developing and implementing policies and programs on mental health. The private sector industries should be implementing this department order.
Based on your studies and data, how aware are our kababayans in being mindful and taking care of their mental health issues?
The DOLE also, to ensure compliance with this, because it's part of the standards, inspection is being done. And because this is an issued department order, or this should be a mandated program, we are seeing a good number of those inspected. I cannot really say, but for those inspected of the for last year, around 94,000 establishments inspected. There was around 90% that were complying with some components. I cannot really say all, but with a majority of the components of the policy on mental health of the Department of Labor.
So, ma'am, are you saying now then that a lot more of our kababayans and employees have access to mental health services in the country?
At least in that department order, what the DOLE is requiring is at the least a referral system for workers with mental health concerns to be able to access services. But also in that same department order, where the companies have to address through awareness, through information, that the dissemination of what mental health is, how they can identify stressors whom to work with in their offices. And there are also, of course, social policies. There should be no discrimination. There should be proper work arrangement so that the workers with mental health issues can, they do have people to connect with, and their companies are able to support them, even at least to referring them to services that can look into their mental health concerns.
And what are basically, ma'am, the common causes of mental health issues in the workplace?
okay, number one, at this point in COVID, all of us know that going to on-site work, being possibly exposed to people or to colleagues at work who may be sick, that is already one big stressor. Then there are the demands of work. And there's also the possibility that there are issues of bullying, alienation, isolation, and of course, the work pressure, the whole work organization. There are many components, and we have to address it as a whole. So that awareness and how they can, how the workers can go, or they have access to people whom they can talk to if they do have all of these stresses already. That is very, very important. And that is why in our the DOLE department order, we're telling companies that there should be competency developed for HR, for the health personnel in the companies, so that they can look into these mental health concerns of the workers.
All right, now that the economy has further opened, we're seeing a lot of employees as well who are still quite apprehensive to go full-time face-to-face. So some of them are still work from home. There's blended, there's hybrid. Are companies in the country addressing these issues to give the best situation for their employees and how they want to work given the current conditions?
Yes, number one, I think the work from home policy is already being addressed. The department, the DOLE also again issued another department order on the telecommuting app or the work from home, so that the companies that can provide and those workers can do work from home work can actually do this, and that would reduce their anxiety to do on-site work.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this labor safety exchange. Maria Teresita Cucueco. And now here's a rundown of the top business stories. The country's trade deficit widened further in August to $6 billion, or more than 353 billion pesos, as exports shrank while imports posted double-digit growth. The Energy Department admits the oil drilling off Palawan to begin in 2023 will not produce enough supply to meet the country's needs. And foreign direct investments contracted by over 60% in July to $460 million, or over 27 billion pesos, the lowest monthly level since May 2021. And straight ahead on the exchange, where your business is our business. At a time when the cost of living becomes expensive by the day and coming off from a lingering pandemic that has caused disruptions, how can we promote mental wellness? Two organizations share with us their views. And what can we expect from the SIM registration law? We speak to cybersecurity experts on the ups and downs of this initiative. Keep it right here on CNN Philippines. News you can trust. Glad you're staying with us right here on the exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Work-life balance is one key to maintaining good mental health. But the lines between the workplace and the home have blurred because of changes in the working environment since COVID-19 began. How are these changes impacting employee productivity and well-being? Let's now have an exchange with Mind Nation Chairman Monique Ong and InTouch Counselor Agnes Nano. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Agnes, let me start off with you. Given the transition from isolation to hybrid and now face-to-face, what has been the mental health impact on employees' productivity?
Definitely, Rico, there is this constant transition that has been happening when COVID struck us, no? The adjusting for in the work from home setting, and then recently it's now return to work, no? Return to work. That constant adjustment that has been happening has really affected productivity. So the question maybe we'd like to ask is, how are they coping? Mm-hmm. How are they coping? There's this acceptance. There's this, blended, like you were mentioning a while ago with Dr. Cucueco, the blended setup has been helping also. Companies are more how do we tell that? They're more aware that there is a need for people to stay at home because of health issues. And at the same time, there's also a need for them to socialize at the workplace. So when that happens, when the company extends this kind of leniency to their employees,
Correct.
then the employees feel that they are cared for. And when they're cared for, that translates to productivity. And, you know, the biggest resource is the people, the personnel. So that I think contributes to productivity. And when they're happy, they produce more.
That's right. And speaking of coping, Monique, what are some of the strategies for Filipino employees to cope with these workplace changes?
There's a lot. There's very important things of what we've talked about and how important things that happen for employees feeling overworked, burnt out, and uncertainty of what's happening in their lives. So what is absolutely important on what companies need to do? There are things where, number one, you need to understand what your employees are actually feeling right now. I think the surveys actually help to understand the company culture's strengths and challenges. That's number one. Understand what your employees are feeling. The second part are comprehensive trainings on mental health, first aid, things like how to manage depression, on how to prevent suicide and self-harm thoughts. These are trainings that are important that can help your employees to manage their issues and have, especially for Mind Nation services, we also provide 24/7 access to our highly rated mental health experts and well-being coaches. Those are the things that can help your people to feel better on what they're handling with the hybrid working period right now.
And Agnes, amid all of these emotional changes because of the in the workplace, how resilient are Filipino workers in readjusting to the shifting working environment?
Filipinos innately are resilient. We are in the typhoon belt, and we have been always adjusting to situations, not only done by calamities, but also in the workplace setting, as proven by what we've gone through for this past 3 years. So I think it's innate in the Filipino. We are resilient, but more than that, I think it's really, you know, that heart of the Filipino na naririnig natin lagi. We always hear about that. That's the heart of the Filipino. We are really good workers. We really commit. So I think that is already an advantage in itself.
Monique, we're seeing now more and more of our kababayans back at work, face to face. We see it in Metro Manila. We see it in the Visayas and Mindanao. I mean, as the economy opens up. But of course, there's also a downside to all of this. There's traffic, you have rising fares, higher oil prices, more expensive consumer goods as employee transition back.
Yes, that's really a big problem right now. Mental health support in the workplace is a number one priority really for all of the companies because of, especially the COVID-19 crisis, the emotional challenges employees are confronting right now have spiked as well. So these days, the employees must deal with return to office, anxiety, managing fears about the pandemic, and their financial insecurity. So to address about these issues, business leaders must ensure that they're able to take care of their employees' well-being. This can be done by creating a culture that recognizes and supports mental health, and by partnering with a well-being provider that offers a comprehensive mode of care.
If there's a downside, there's also an upside, right, Agnes, to these face-to-face interactions. And it means increased social engagement, nurturing a separate support system apart from the family. The family, which has been with them, especially during this isolation and the lockdowns over the past 2 years.
Yes. We've been hearing about people who've been also wanting to engage more and do face-to-face at least twice a week. And it helps them have that work-life balance, as you were saying, Rico, no? That work-life balance is so important. So they don't mind working from home, but they also would like to see also some of their colleagues, especially those who got onboarded when pandemic happened. There were no relationships that were happening then. They were isolated, no? They were feeling isolated. So there, I think that's the upside. There's the nurturing of another support system other than their families, and at the same time, it's also a break from the work from the home front, no? Where they're taking care of the kids, they're taking care of everything.
And Monique, what can companies do to support these changes and transitions for employees to enhance and improve productivity?
So the first part is the company should have to stop the stigma on mental health and well-being. So that means they should incentivize your employees to talk about this in your team one-on-one, or check on a colleague who has been silent for a while. Encourage the practice of seeking help from experts like a psychologist or a well-being coach. The other second tip would be to partner with a mental health and well-being provider who cares. Partner with a mental health care provider that provides support for a person's holistic health and has services that they can tailor fit to their employees' needs. This includes making mental health care support accessible and convenient.
Thank you so much, ladies, for this mental health exchange in the workplace. Mind Nation Chairman Monique Ong and InTouch Counselor Agnes Nano. And more to come on the exchange, where your business is our business. A new law requiring SIM registration will have its set of implementing rules and regulations in less than 2 months. We talk about this policy to crack down on crimes using text and online platforms with 2 experts next. Keep it right here on CNN Philippines. News you can trust. Welcome back right here on The Exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Safety in the digital space is also a hot button issue in the conversation around mental health. How can the SIM registration law protect Filipinos from spamming and cyber crimes? Let's now have an exchange with Carlos Nazareno of democracy.net.ph and technology editor and cybersecurity analyst Art Sabaniego. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Carlos, let me start off with you. Is the SIM card registration law helpful or detrimental to our data privacy?
Well, the big concern here really is data breaches. Kasi as I've shown by recent international occurrences, there have been data breaches of telcos of their SIM card registries. Like in Mexico, the Renault leak, yun yung registry nila. In Malaysia, there was a 2017 leak of 46 million phone numbers. And recently, in August, the Indonesian hack with 1.3 billion records. And in September, Australia with the Optus breach with 10 million users, almost 40% of their population. With regards to the Indonesian hack, comment ng cybersecurity expert si Tego Aprianto, sabi niya, not only are we not free of spam, but our registration data are leaked and sold instead on the dark web. So that's the biggest concern, really.
And of course, Art, this law entails all subscribers to give their names and addresses to their service providers, and this could be hacked. And apart from that, critics are also saying that this law will become a vast surveillance network of the government to be used against the people. Can you say about that?
Ngayon kasi, ang nangyayari, when you complain about someone scam you using SMS or call, if that person used a prepaid SIM card, the investigation will be dead-end na. So, this SIM Registration Act, the government introduced this on the belief that it would help law enforcement in crimes that involves SIMs, like call and text messages.
But the big question is, could it be used against the people once we start registering our names and addresses and all the personal information that would be needed by the providers and even by the resellers? They're even saying that resellers are ill-equipped in handling large amounts of data, which could lead to data loss or misuse. Carlos?
Yeah, So what happened in Mexico back in 2009 to 2012 was that they implemented the SIM card registration database, which is the Registro Nacional de Usuarios de Telefonía Móvil. What happened was, instead of reducing crime, extortion calls went up by 40% and kidnappings by 8%. What happened was that their SIM registry was leaked and sold on the dark web for 500 Mexican pesos. That's about only 1,500 Philippine pesos. So what other stuff that happened was there became a secondary black market for stolen SIM cards. Crimes involving cell phone theft went up. So that may happen here in the Philippines.
And of course, the implementing rules and guidelines will be released in 2 months, Art. Are we going to be a step ahead of the fraudsters, or are we going to be a step behind? Will this really eradicate scam and spam messaging?
First, resellers will not, they will not have access to the data. The resellers, only the telcos will have the access to the data. This is good because even the government will not have access to that data. So the government did not take that responsibility to collect the data from us. So yung mga telco na ang bahalang mangolekta. Also yung sa Mexico, what happened in Mexico was that in 2009 they implemented a SIM registration law, but they removed it in 2012 and they mandated all the telcos to destroy all the data. Pero ang nangyari talaga nun, they mandated the telcos to destroy all the data because they don't need it anymore. Because the telcos were mandated now to report everything to the government.
Well, we do hope what happened in other countries will not happen in the Philippines with the enactment of this new SIM card registration law. Carlos, there are 120 million mobile customers in the country. Around 95% are prepaid users. This will be a major challenge for the telcos.
Yes, it is. And let's not forget, our telcos are not immune to hacking. In 2014, the 4 websites of Globe were hacked by the hacktivist group Bloodsec International. And in May 2020, the official Twitter customer service account of PLDT Cares, was hacked by Anonymous Philippines. This is worrying because customers direct message the Twitter account with their sensitive info like account and mobile numbers. So, may track record na of being hacked ang telcos natin.
So what is your outlook right now for the SIM registration law, Carlos, as we move forward?
Well, it's a wait and see kind of thing. We really wish that no data breaches will occur. But if there will be, let's hope that our users will be compensated accordingly. Kasi according to the law, there's a cap of 4 million pesos if the SIM registry gets breached due to hacking or whatever, or due to negligence. That's very small because that's only like under 1.7% of the daily revenue of Globe and Smart. So in case of a breach, we hope in the IRR or maybe under the Data Privacy Act that users be indemnified for any damages sustained due to inaccurate, incomplete, outdated, false, unlawfully obtained or unauthorized use of personal information. So for example, if somebody gets hit by identity theft and loses like 100,000 pesos a bank, the data controller should, like in this case maybe the telcos, if they will be holding the database, they should compensate the victim for money lost and the like.
And Art, out of the millions of Filipinos who have mobile phones, many of them also have multiple phone numbers. Are we likely to see a major reduction of number users? Because now they have to register for each of those numbers. Ayun na mapahuli.
Yeah. Correct. Because there will be a problem here. Many users might be disenfranchised because there are people who don't have IDs. Also, verification and authentication are critical in stopping identity fraud when you register your SIM. So ito yun, because the telcos are not equipped to ascertain the authenticity of the documents that will be given to them. So magkakaroon tayo ng problema dito.
Thank you, gentlemen, for this SIM registration law exchange. Carlos Nazareno of democracy.net.ph and technology editor and cybersecurity analyst Art Samaniego. And this is the exchange. We make sense of the facts and the figures and the ups and downs of the business cycle, because your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Thanks for watching CNN Philippines. News you can use, news you can trust.